people of Earth. It is I, the Great Goonan, and this is the Great Goonan Podcast. And I'm here today with my friend Rob Santos, comedian and fellow crapper. We are both on the toilet, ladies and gentlemen. Courtesy flush.
Listen, I'll give you one too. Hopefully you can hear that. I do a show in the bathroom.
My whole show is the bathroom. As comedians, we're very cocky.
Yes. Oh, damn.
Comedy is our duty.
Oh, listen. Look, my jokes are real booty. That's all I can say. I don't have puns. I'm not good at puns.
Listen, comedy is a lot like being on the toilet. Sometimes it's nutty, sometimes it's corny, sometimes you're too green.
Oh shit. Okay, see, that's fucking dope. You know what? Sometimes you gotta clean up after everybody on stage, man. Especially if someone drops a bomb before you. Is that good? I suck at this.
Hey, well, look, sometimes comedy just stinks.
Oh shit. Damn. See, I love the puns, but I love them because I can't do them.
It's all right. We'll just move on. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with my friend Rob Santos. And Rob Santos is are you wearing your own merchandise at the moment?
I have no choice. It's all I wear now. I stopped wearing other people's stuff, man. It just feels more comfortable now. Mm-hmm. The only time, plus I did a show last night and I slept all day today. So I haven't changed. I haven't showered. You talk about stinking. I stink right now. So I haven't showered or changed at all. I did a show last night at the Funny Bone and I just came home and crashed, man. I got home like at 12:30, dude. I was out. So.
That's Connecticut, right?
Yeah, Connecticut. Yeah, it's funny. It says the Hartford Funny Bone, but it's like 20 minutes away from Hartford in a mall. So it's a good spot though. I like it. But I wear my own merchandise because I'm a self-promoter. It's like, this is comedy sometimes, sometimes just like, I use this to wipe my ass actually. That's how bad this is. No, that's it.
Well, you gotta be a self-promoter, and you've always been a self-promoter. Incidentally, the interesting thing about you said the Hartford Club is not actually in Hartford. Remember, in New York, the Broadway Comedy Club was not on Broadway, so we're even.
No.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right off Broadway. Was it 52nd, 54th, 53rd, or was it
53rd and 7th?
Yes, right near Jerry Orbach Way.
Right.
Oh,
exactly.
I had some very interesting nights there. I tell you that.
So,
oh man, I miss New York.
And a while back, you moved to Connecticut, didn't you?
Yeah, man, I had to move back. So I moved back in 2012 because my girlfriend and I were having a baby, and now she's 9. I tried to go back in 2015, but I was having some issues.
Wait a minute, your girlfriend is 9?
No. No, my daughter's 9. I'm not. Listen. I adore your stuff because it reminds me of much of. Why can I think of his name? I was gonna say Woody Harrelson, but it's not Woody Harrelson. I can't even. You got me going. I can't even think. I literally woke up like a half an hour ago. So
Courtesy flush.
Courtesy flush. I got shit. I can't think as fast as you right now, Joe. Oh no, my girlfriend and I were together. We were still together. We had our daughter around in 2011. No, we were with child in 2011. We left in 2012. I left New York because I wanted to learn to be a father, and I had a lot of mental health issues that I needed to understand. So going back to Connecticut just seemed like the best way for us. We didn't have family out there. So my daughter was born in 2012. She's 9 years old now. I tried moving back to New York City in 2015. But it was like something happened, like a gentrification bomb went off in Harlem, man. It was crazy. And there were so many comedians and there was a lot of weirdness, too many fucking comedians. And so the guys that I knew, they were moving up and I would go hang out, and the people that like came from other states to get better, they would look at me like I was crazy. Like, who the fuck is this guy? So I only stayed for like a few years. I couldn't get an apartment because it was hard to get an apartment. It was just too much. So I went back to Connecticut and just started doing my thing out here. I just really tried to do the best I can. Woody Allen. I'm not a Woody Allen. There we go. Ha!
Woody Allen is from my neighborhood in Brooklyn originally, the same neighborhood. But you have
Get
more
out of
in
here.
common because you're dating a 9-year-old. No, 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 no.
Yes, exactly. Well, look, she's getting boobs now, so
Oh,
she's
okay.
growing up.
She's growing into
Listen,
your erection.
exactly. Look, don't splice this up and put it in one section, all right? I want to make sure I have a career.
Oh, that's all right. You're fine. You're
You
fine.
know?
So we kind of got to know each other because one of the things we have in common, other than being on the toilet, is
Yes.
is that we both have our own. We created our own sort of series on the web about our lives, based on our lives as
Yes.
comedians. I have my show called Tune In to Goonan, which is about as classy as this.
Yep.
But and then you have
Yeah.
your show, and you've had sort of more than one
Yes.
incarnation of your show, and that's sort of how we became friendly because
Yes.
we all know what it's like when you're a content creator and you're creating something based on your life, and maybe the collaborators that you collaborate with aren't as, let's say, honest and the best for you. I've had to deal with that in the past, and
Yes.
I made sure that I owned everything so that nobody
Yes.
could do anything. And we talked a lot about that online. We would say, make sure you copyright everything and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember it's interesting because like I'm okay to talk about it. It's funny because when you talk about things like ownership and like I learned how to copyright and like this is trademarked. So I trademark this. I own this. I can, if someone else tries to put this on merchandise, I can, I can go after them, and to me, that makes me feel good. But I had to go through that situation. And I'm sure you felt the same way. Like when you were going through it, there's just certain things you have to do in order to figure shit out, so to speak. And courtesy flush. And so, see, I'm good at doing it inadvertently.
I'm not doing this half-assed, so to speak. I'm naked.
Exactly. Oh, see, listen, you can't see underneath here. Look, I would that's my dog. No, like, not to bore people or anything like that. It's tough because when you're going through things like that, like the reason why I went through what I went through, because someone I thought I could trust thought they could get an easy payday with me, which hurt me and made me feel good at the same time. Because then you understand that, wow, there's an actual value to me. Because as comedians, we don't know what our price tag is. We give our art away for free sometimes. We give it away so freely without really thinking about it. And that's what I learned. I learned that, wow, there's a price tag on me. Like I can make companies money if they decided to come get into bed with me, And that's one thing that I learned. But I also learned what the ins and outs of defamation. Like truth is such a weird thing. It's such a weird fucking thing. But I'm happy to Biege on both sides.
You're talking about what you're allowed to say without being considered slanderous.
Exactly.
Even if you're telling the truth.
Yes. The interpretation of truth is so interesting. Just because you can think you can say whatever you want on the internet doesn't mean you actually can. My first cease and desist letter from this person was very interesting because it's not slander. I'm telling the truth. And when I kept doing it, then this person finally took me to court. But the problem with that is that I had shitty lawyers. No, I don't want to say shitty lawyers. Let's just say I had lawyers that weren't up to speed at the time because of just the situation. And it was tough. But I wanted my intellectual property back so bad that I was willing to do whatever it took to get it back. And now I'm still in court with this person for, sort of the same reasons. But now I kind of got to defend myself on this part, which sucks the most. But I've learned a lot. Like now we went from Biege on both sides to Biege. And now with Biege, it's the original version of what I wanted. That individual I was working with before tried to whitewash it in a way that I didn't like. And I hated the fact that this person tried to whitewash it because it made it feel as if white people couldn't consume the truth about black people. It was,
right.
yeah, I hated that. It's like, why are we doing that?
I want to get to the new incarnation of your
Yes.
show in a second, but I just wanted to put basically a cap on what we were talking about leading up to that. The
For
problems
sure.
that I had with my show was called Tune In to Goonan. So it's kind of hard to
Mhm.
argue who it's about because my name is there,
Yeah, right, right.
you know? Plus, the person I had a problem with was working on another episode of it, meaning I already had material, I already had an episode. So I was bringing back
Right.
old cast members, I was continuing storylines, I had already
Yeah.
copyrighted stuff in the past, so I had my chain of title with this person. Plus I had
Yes.
the sort of archive of our discussions. We never had a formal contract, but I had the archive of our agreements, which
Right.
was a formal contract. So
Yes.
I was able to retain control of everything, and it's kind of hard to argue when, like, let's
Yes.
say the guy's name was Marvin. I'm just making up a name. Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's not tuned into Marvin, so you know it has nothing to
Yeah.
do with Marvin. A lot of times, people
Right.
that call themselves production companies and call themselves movie makers are not content creators at all. They rely entirely on creative people to create the content.
Hmm.
And then they want to smack on the name co-producer and sort of make that think that they own something when they don't own you.
Oh, no. I was in the back of the Mark Twain House in Hartford, Connecticut, probably one of the best stages in Connecticut to perform at, one of the prestigious stages to perform at. I was in the back of this house, double fisting beers, watching the credits roll, wondering when did we agree on that credit for that thing? You know, like I didn't, like all of a sudden all these names came out. I'm like, oh, what the fuck just happened? And I physically got my heart broken. That's how much I love my work. And I'm sure you do too.
Of course,
Yeah.
because not only is it your work, the particular project you're talking about is your creativity with your life story. So
Yes.
don't bootleg my life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Watching my life get bootlegged
Yeah.
was very, very tough. I don't know it. I don't want anyone to ever experience that. It wasn't fun. And then when I had an opportunity to work on it though, a local TV network was going to pay me X amount of money to write the show. They're going to pay me just like, it wasn't much. It was like 16 grand for 8 episodes. That's $2,000 an episode. Like in Hartford as a comedian, nobody was seeing money like that out here. I had a choice to make. I could have kept this person on and continued with the project, but I couldn't do it. I basically did a Chappelle. I kind of like walked away from everything because it just didn't feel right,
Yeah.
you know?
Well,
And
you can't feed a snake and then not expect it to bite you, you know. So don't give them a second chance because then that's your fault.
exactly. So it turned out all right. I mean, look, I was depressed for a long time, but I got out of it and I ended up, then a friend of mine a couple of years later decided, hey, you want to do it again? I was like, yeah, why not? And then here we are.
Well, that's the thing that you ultimately discover, and that I discovered in the thing too, because when it first happened to
Hmm.
me, I became very depressed. Because when you come into a partnership with these types of people, you start to feel like they're simpatico with you. They're your pal, they're your friend, they're family in this project. And then when they betray you, it's almost like a family member betraying you, and then you have to wonder if the cast is going to stay with you or stay with them,
Hmm.
because you know that a lot of times actors have no loyalty. They just want work. So they'll go
Yeah.
wherever there's
Yeah.
something. But what you ultimately realize, and I hope you realize, because you should definitely realize it having looked at your work,
Hmm.
is that let the baby have his bottle. You could create another thing tomorrow that's going to be
Yeah.
just as good or better. You have more
Yeah.
stuff. You're an infinite well of material. They just got a taste of your candy bar. They didn't get to have the meal.
I like that. I like it. It took me a long time to figure that out though, because it's so scarce for us. The problem with the entertainment industry is that you feel like you only get one chance sometimes, you know, and and because of that, you hold on to whatever you can, whatever morsel you can get. It's tough, but like I'm thinking, okay, like in your situation, right? Like I I don't want to say I became distrusting towards people, but I was very leery about everybody. Like how was it for you after?
Yes, anytime somebody approached me with something, showed interest in something, I became very protective. I probably still am protective, but I think I'm protective in a healthier way now. Like
Yeah.
I kind of refuse to get something that isn't formal now with somebody, and I refuse to put all my stakes with one person anymore. Because, what people don't realize about performers, and comedians a lot of times are thought of as cynical people and stuff like that, but if you think about show business, you think about writing and creating, it's really all the starry-eyed, corny, storybook, Disney, fantasy ideas that you had deep in your heart as a kid. They're all entirely true. And you are very delicate, and you can get broken when those fairy tales don't come true for you. So I'm very protective still. But I also know that, I know, first of all, the way of protecting it is through legal things like copyright and things like that.
Yes,
But,
yes.
but also, I know that I could create something new tomorrow. I could create something new the next day, and I've done new stuff with that material since then. And
Yes,
with
right.
different people, I started, when you do things, I don't know about you. I sometimes, the toughest thing for me to do is to change. So when I
Yes.
have a cast I like, or a producer I like, or a crew I like, I tend to want to use them over and over again, because it's much easier than explaining my philosophy of life and comedy all over again. If you find
Yeah.
somebody you jive with, sometimes you go, oh, I'll stick with them no matter what the problems are. But when you start to realize that these people may not have your best interest and may not really get you to the so-called promised land, then you start to realize the only thing I need to do this project again and again and again is me.
Exactly. And see, I love your instinct on that and your perspective. I see, for me, I have mental health conflicts or issues or whatever you want to call them, right? I live with borderline personality disorder, which is essentially the same thing like Pete Davidson lives with, you know. But for him, because he's famous, he's a hero, he's just someone we can latch on to. He's a soldier, he's back, all that garbage. Uh, when you're a guy like me, just like a fucking weirdo with a show, right? And when it happened to me, a lot of what I live with borderline personality disorder, ADHD, and bipolar disorder. Massive mood swings, tension, all that shit. And on top of that, the relationship aspect. This person violated the relationship aspect of what we did. I trusted this person. I love this person. I put everything in this person. Then this person would say certain things like I would get better, right? Then this person would say to me like, oh man, you're not going to need me after a while because you're getting better at this. So instead of praising me, they'll find ways to just sort of like keep ferment me down into the ground. And it got to a point where it's just like, yo, like I'm just trying to learn and get better. And over time, I latched onto this person, and when they broke that trust, it devastated me because of what I live with. And the mental health aspect of it was probably the toughest because I go to therapy about 3-4 times a week working on this stuff. So when that happened, it just, oh man, it stuck a wrench in everything, man. It was like the toilet got clogged. You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't find a way to clean it.
Yeah, that's the thing too. If you want to talk about like sort of my journey through the similar problems with a crook, so to speak, is that I started to realize that they were right. I'm getting better at this, and I don't need them. I figured out how to edit without somebody else. I figured out how to, I was like, wait a minute, I kind of do this already. Why am I worried? Like, why do I need this person? Because here's the thing. The other person that I was working with also was not a comedian, was not a content creator. So a lot of times, if you're doing comedy well, people don't realize the hard work you put into it. And they think it's something that you just crap out or something like that. They don't think it's something that you've suffered over and over again, And so they didn't understand, first of all, the attachment I had to it and the way I could summon it, but they also didn't understand that especially with comedians, I always consider comedians more than any other type of entertainer to be sort of islands in their own. If like, whereas an actor always wants to find different things to become, a comedian wants to be more and more like himself the more older he gets. You know what I mean? And so when I started to realize, you know, I could edit on this thing, and this person, like I said, wasn't a comedian. So what they were concerned about is, you know, the lighting should be different in this room. I said, you know what? The lighting's okay. If you come away from a comedy talking about the lighting, the comedy has failed. You know?
Yeah.
And a lot of times some of the greatest comedians that I love, I mean, the movies that I love, like if you think about even way back to the Marx Brothers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you take the Marx Brothers out of the movie, it's a crappy movie. The movie's not a great cinematography thing. It's great because of the performances. Comedy, more than any other type of thing that you do in the media, like television shows or movies, comedy more than any completely relies on the performer.
Totally. It relies on instinct. It relies on timing.
Yeah.
And it definitely relies on chemistry. And if you don't have those certain factors that are built into that show, like you mentioned, who gives a fuck about how great it looks? You know, it's like, oh yeah, that movie looked really good, but it fucking sucked. You know, like how many bad movies have you seen considered bad, but the performances were pretty solid and you still liked it?
Yeah.
You know, like the story might have sucked, but it's like there's a lot of those movies that are like that. You know, one of my favorite comedy movies is The Replacements. And The Replacements is a football movie with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
It's a shitty movie, but I love watching that fucking movie, you know, because the characters, they draw you in. And it's a ragtag group of football players, and I like that. So I understand what you're saying totally. It's a weird thing. I'm happy it's behind me almost. I still got to fight this chick over like revisiting the court case and stuff like that. And it's only because I violated it by mentioning this person's name and their production company. Because what happened was, I'll be honest with you, because of the mental health stuff, what I went through was so bad. I was working at an Apple store in Farmington, Connecticut. Now, Farmington, Connecticut is one of the whitest places in Connecticut. I go on stage and I do a joke where, like,
what do you mean? You mean like there's like mayonnaise everywhere? There's lots of mayonnaise.
It's like mayonnaise and Rolls Royces. It's fucking weird, man. It's just like they love the idea of diversity. They like having black people in the background of their lifestyle. That's how it is. Like I go on stage and do a joke. Like I was in like if I go to another white town in something wherever it is, I was like, yo, you guys aren't white. My white people are white. Like they're so white, they make you guys look like N-words. Like that's what I say. And then they start laughing. I say, you know, the whole thing, and then they laugh at it because like, damn, man, that's fucking white. You know, and so out here in Farmington, there's a lot of white people at the store I used to work at, an Apple store. So I would see people that resembled her and her husband. And I got so nervous that I would I would legitimately like get scared. Like I would go back to that trauma. And it was so bad that I couldn't even work. I had to leave work for like 3 months because I couldn't handle seeing someone that resembled, because I would go from zero to rage like that. It was really, really bad because I wasn't necessarily afraid of them. I was afraid what I might do to them if I saw them. Like I would forget who they were, and I didn't want to have to deal with that. You know, I was very mindful about how I approached that situation. It was scary when your faculties sort of like change in an instant and you forget who and where you are.
But I could understand that, because that's another thing that I wanted to say. When the person tried to take control of my project, it was almost as if they were trying to take custody of my child. You know?
Yeah.
And it was like, you're not taking my kid away from me. I'll kill you.
No.
You know?
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. And when oh, dude, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm just like in such agreement with you, because I want people to, like, whoever watches this, like your fan base that watches this, I want them to understand that one, don't go to bed with your work too much. Yeah. Know that there's a possibility that things might be changed. And for instance, it's like if it gets picked up, or you know, an executive of some sort might want to think about it differently in a different scope, and maybe that might be helpful. Or maybe a producer or whomever it is might want to look at it a little differently. Be open to that feedback. Also protect yourself at all times. That's what we're basically talking about. But also protect yourself mentally and emotionally, because when you're caught up in that situation, man, there's nothing you won't do to protect your child, just like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can get real fucking crazy, and it can really be painful, and it can take months off your life, like legit. Like you can go months without really focusing on anything that's real, so to speak.
Yeah, and I had similar bad reactions, but I did feel that in the end, coming through it made me wiser and better off. Like one of the things that I did do, because that was happening at a time when I was drinking a lot. I stopped drinking in August. It will be 3 years since I had any alcohol, and it was partly because of that situation. I said, you know what? I've got to keep a clear mind, because I have to know who my friends really are, and I can't have people taking advantage of me. And when we would edit together, me and this person, he would offer me drinks and stuff like that, and I'd pass out at his place and stuff like that. So it was like he wanted to keep me weak. He wanted to keep me sort of like, and it was like, and it was a weakness I was letting myself do. So I stopped.
Yeah. See, I had my thing was, I grew up without a dad. My mom was great, and I grew up without that type of, my mother was working a lot, and so she was obviously my mother's a big figure in my life that I love, and I'm glad I have her, but at the same time, it's like I grew up very harsh, and because of that, like I will look to anybody who said that they cared about me, and they said that they loved me, and that was mine. That's how she kept me at bay. You know what I'm saying? And now, I'm slipping up, but yeah, it's a woman. Yeah, so this woman kept me at bay like that. And because of that, like, I flocked to that. And that's how I was kept weak. And when you go back and you realize that and you see it, because like, damn, man, my thing is like, I've been seeking validation from anyone in this business for so long, because it's tough. Man, you go after a show or something like that, and you say, oh, that was good, that was great. Like, I can handle that. That I'm used to, because I'm in performance mode, But when you get outside of that and someone really sees something in you, and they care about you the way they say they do, and they give you that time and that love, and then they go around doing what they did, it's hard to compute what just happened, because now I'm being affected in a whole different way. And that individual, the person kept me weak like that. And that's such a great way of putting it. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. I really am. It sucks, because like, I think you're a talented dude. And I think that when you are getting stronger, the people around you, they see that, they get threatened by that. So instead of just like riding the wave with you and supporting you, it's like, oh, I got to keep this person down in order for me to succeed, so they can't ever get up. It's almost like people they keep this guard up, and they don't want to let anybody in. Yeah. It's like, I don't understand. Like, it's the business we decided to attempt to get into is freaking crazy.
And we were going through that almost at the same time. And that's kind of how we got to know each other and became friendly, because I would see you talking about this. And I didn't talk a lot about it online, but I saw you talk a lot about it. So we would privately discuss this. And I must say, having one other person that I could go, maybe you should do this. Like when I was giving you advice, I was really giving me advice,
And yes. No, I'm sorry. I'm just, because I'm excited about it. Forgive me. I'm an active listener. I'm sorry. No, but I agree. It was great. I definitely, like a guy like you coming in, helping me out in that moment. It was definitely much needed. Yeah. And I'm very grateful for that.
Isn't it funny that we're talking about so many serious things while on the toilet? First of all.
Oh, dude. Courtesy flush.
Courtesy flush!
That's how you got it. Listen. I think I do my show called Toilet Time, and that's when I started going in the bathroom, and I just started spewing because I found myself on the toilet. See, I bring my iPad. I'm a little bit more new age. Now. I bring my iPad, but then I started spewing out nonsense, and Toilet Time was birthed from that incident. So I would be in the bathroom, getting out the shower. You get in the shower, you think a little bit. I get right out the shower, and I just bam, I spew, and then here we go. And now I'm actually turning my show into more of a political show, kind of, where it's similar to like a, what was it? I was going to call it the Daily Planet, the Daily Show and SNL sort of smashed together, where I just want to take topics that affect me, that bother me, and I want to talk about them like this online. And then I have someone here, I interview people here in my bathtub, so It's like, and people like the concept, but I didn't have, but the problem is that in the beginning I had something to latch onto. I had rage. But then after a while, I stopped really doing it because I wasn't as angry anymore. But when people liked it, and I'm like, well, what do I do now? Like, oh, well, shoot, like, what do I find to be interesting? Stuff in the news, certain topics and subjects. And like, oh, maybe I can do that on Toilet Time now. And then still interview people. So this to me feels like a preview of what I want to do. Like, I love this. I love this. I look, the New York bathrooms are so weird. So is your shower and sink in another room?
My shower's right over there.
Oh, so is everything in the same room?
My shower's right over there. Yeah.
Perfect. Because I have a buddy of mine he has his bathroom and his toilet in one section. He lives on the East End, and then he has his shower and his wash is I can't even think
Sink.
the
sink.
Yes, the sink in another room. I'm like, yo, how the fuck do you do that, man?
Yeah,
like, but he lives by himself, so he can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
oh, dude, looking at it annoyed the shit out of me, But I love that man. He's a good dude. But that's the thing. Like, it's interesting how people come together in times of need. You don't realize who's out there watching.
Yeah.
You don't. And that's the one thing I wish you keep in mind.
And now you have another incarnation of your show. Originally it was Biege on both sides, but you have now a project you're coming up again based on the same thing, same concept, I guess, right? I think I'm right. Just called Biege, right? Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's called Biege. So Biege is essentially sort of like a rebirth of it, right? Biege is the original concept for the show. Biege is more or less like a family show that I'm trying to put out there. It's basically about a mental, I can't even talk. It's basically about a stand-up comedian coming out of a mental institution. And what would that be like? How would his family react to him being gone the way he was gone? Like, he left abruptly. How can he get back to his family? Can he get back on stage again? Can he get back to understanding his faculties of who he is? It's essentially about radical acceptance. I don't know if you guys ever learned in DBT, but dialectical behavioral therapy is more or less mental and emotional regulation and trying to live skillfully with your mind so that your emotions don't get in the way of your choices. And DBT is that main component of it, and trying to find the wise mind, which is the middle ground. And and the story is essentially about radical acceptance. Rob accepting the world changing after he comes out of that mental institution. Because of that choice he made, things around him are different now. So what is he going to do? And that's where the story goes. What's going to happen? So, and our concept was essentially, it's a dramedy.
Okay.
See, the thing is, I thought about this, Charles. I like when your character's in different situations. It's like, how do I get out? Right?
Yes.
And my character he's in a situation that he created. But he's not aware of. It's like, wait a minute, I did this? Like, what the fuck do you mean? So it's a real thing. Like, there's some comedic elements to it, like because of my performance and some of the writing. Like, for instance, one of my characters, like one of the characters named Frank, he picks me up in a limousine. And Rob's like, yo, it's so apropos to like being a comic coming out of a show, and then here's a limousine to pick you up. But Rob was like, yo, what the hell is this limo doing here? Like, like, did you steal this limo?
Come on, get in, superstar. We gotta go.
Who drops off a stolen limo?
Get in the car.
That's where some of the comedic elements are, because it shows who my best friend's character is, right? Those are some elements there, but it's based on a little bit on my life and just what it would like. I would always find it interesting what it would be like for a black guy or a beige guy to get out of a mental institution. We get more praise coming out of prison than we do coming, like, because we know, yeah, yo, you did your bid, yeah, man, yo, you my man, like that type. We just have more love for that. Let a black person graduate from college. It's like, all right, whatever, dude, whatever, nigga. You know what I mean? Unless it's their parents showing that kind of love. I'm coming out of a mental institution, my character rather, because he decided that he wanted to do what's best for himself. But because of that choice, it's a selfish choice. However, his family, his friends are looking at him like, well, I understand what you did, but like, whatever, you were selfish. And now that's, to me, where the main crux of the story is. So now it's like this dramatic piece or this dramedy where I want to express my range a little differently. I find it more fun and more amusing that way.
And it's closer to what you initially wanted to do.
Exactly. The original one was definitely about a dude and his daughter. Like those elements are still there. But then when I thought about it, I was just like, yo, like Black families don't necessarily talk about mental health like that. It's nice on an Instagram post or a Instagram story where people talk about self-love and self-care and love languages. I rarely see anybody saying like, "Hey, I had fun in therapy this week," or you know what I mean. My love language is, going to group therapy and getting the best out of it. It's never necessarily the clinical way of going about it. It's always some mental, spiritual way of doing it, and that's where these companies they prey on you, and these places they prey on you for like, oh yeah, you're not going to go and stick it out the right way or different way rather. You're going to just tell yourself what you want to believe, and we're going to prey on that, and we're going to use those sensibilities to take advantage of you, as opposed to just like, hey, go in and do the fucking work and be confronted by some real truth. And that's where the story, when it really started taking shape.
Now, why do you think that is in the Black community? Is mental health or seeking psychiatry or psychology, professional help, is that considered a weakness?
Yes, totally. I don't want to be like, it's like victimism, man. It's like we're so used to being victims that it's hard to break free from that. And I understand why. I get why people might think and feel that way. However, it's detrimental to us as a race, as people in general. Not even like, for instance, I've been in white therapy sessions, group therapies, and I've been in Black therapy, group therapy sessions. Vastly different.
What is the difference? Like, is like the Black one more rhythm?
That's fucking, hold on, I gotta give you that, hold on. I gotta give you one of those. That's fucking great. That's fucking great. I love that. Oh shit, that was awesome. No, it's, yes, and we're just like, for real, it's a different rhythm to it, and it really is. But it's most of the people that like, it's like most of the people that I was there with, they were there because it was court ordered.
Right.
And I'm actually like, just not to give too much away, I've been writing, and I've been to white ones. And white ones, they're there because they want to be there. And I don't mind you, there's a Spanish person sprinkled here and there, maybe another Black person here and there, but it's not like the hood in Hartford. It's always some like Farmington, Connecticut, those white people like I mentioned. It's or even I don't want to say, country type of white people as well, but they're there because they want to be there and because they want to get better. The other guys, they're there because it's court order. They have to be there. And because they have to be there, they ruin the entire session. So we barely get through anything. I was like, yo, I got to get out of this. I bounced. I was like, yo, can I go into another group with someone else where I don't have to be around felons? You know what I mean? Like, no disrespect to them, but it's like, yo, I'm trying to get my mind right, man. It's like, I respect where you guys are from. I want you all to be healthy, be happy, be aware. But none of you guys are taking it serious. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't say none of them. There's a few guys that were really there because, yo, they wanted to get their lives right. But when you have like a handful of people or even one person in that space taking the room from everyone else, that affects everything. They don't realize how connected we are. And I got frustrated and I ended up seeing another clinician on my own, and we just completed it. I just completed my 2 years of DBT with her, and she's moving to the DC, which I'm super happy for. And she's been extremely helpful. And I'm going to miss her very much, but these are I made a choice. And some people say, oh, I wish I had insurance. You can get fucking insurance, man. Like, if you're really into it, most of the excuses I hear, or reasons rather, are insurance. I don't have the time, and money for sure, and most of the time if I around a Black dude, especially like a Black dude I know, like, this is how we deal with mental health. It's like, yo, Rob, you good? Yeah, I'm straight. All right, yo. And that's it.
Now,
and then one of these.
And then one of those.
And then one of those.
But when you were saying earlier that there might be like organizations or companies that sort of prey on the Black community not wanting to seek formal psychiatric help, do you mean like self-help groups and things like that? Do you mean like spiritual organizations and stuff like that? Is that what you mean?
No, I mean church.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted. I didn't know. That's what I wanted to say, but I didn't know if you were going to not like that. So I was trying to be
Yeah,
nice. But that's what I was going to say because there's a lot of emphasis. By the way, it's not only from Black people. I hear it from a lot of different people over the years.
exactly. Yep.
We're like, don't go to a doctor. Go to your
Mhm.
deacon. Go to your minister. But what the hell
Yeah.
does your minister know about? What makes them qualified to really help you with those particular things. As a matter of fact, sometimes it can lead you in the opposite direction because if you're
Oh yeah.
only relying on ethereal solutions, you're not really
Hmm.
dealing with personal issues.
Exactly. And when people use, oh, God has a plan for you, God this and God that, and it's like, yo, well, where's this plan at, motherfucker? Because I don't know. I want to see this plan. But when you go to therapy, you can create your own plan. You can see what you're doing. You can make that progress.
Right.
And
You put it back in your own hands rather than something
you,
else far away. Right.
the one thing that I remember going through what I went through, and I think, and I think the same thing might have happened for you, is that you feel like you have no control.
Yeah.
But then when you realize through time as it goes on, it's like, yo, I do have control. So to be empowered by control is one of the it is a hallmark for who we are as human beings in my mind. Because when you have control, you can make those choices. When people say they can't do X, Y, and Z for mental health and therapy, it's because they don't feel like they'll have control over it. It's like, oh, I have people tell me I don't believe in mental health. It's like it exists. I don't. What do you not
It's
believe
not a
in?
theory.
Yeah, I don't believe. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I don't believe in therapy. It's like, no, there's therapists out there. Like you can find people to help you out. There's places that you go on a sliding scale where you can pay $20 every single time you go. And you don't have to do it every week. You can do it every other week. It's just that people don't want to invest money, time, and energy into themselves unless it's something like this. I remember like what we're doing. Like I remember like doing comedy. There's so many comedians, man, that I know of that want to be comics and get famous because they don't want to work a real job anymore. So they'll put that time and an investment into this because they think like, oh, I'm not gonna have to work after a while. But it's like, no, that's not. This shit is real, man. There's like putting hours in this shit, as you know, right? But
Yeah,
the mental health thing is just like
it's a real job. People,
it
people,
is.
it's a real job. It's a job that actually I don't think you can do it half-assed.
As you say, as you're doing, like. But I've seen white people on the flip side. I've seen white people on the flip side abuse their mental health stuff. I've seen it happen, because they have more access to it than we do. But the funny thing is like all you got to do is just go to Psychology Today and boom, access right there. But people just, people of color just choose not to do so, and it's tough. It really is. So I feel like I'm an advocate of some sort. But dude, when I left New York City in 2011, I there was something in me that said I got to get my mind together because I was worried about being successful and not being able to handle it. That was my biggest fear.
I understand that. The
And
thing you could be the most scared of is the thing you want the most.
it's such a mind fuck, man. It really is. And
It's true, though.
I'll be real with you. I left in 2015 because I hit my daughter. I forgot who she was, and she was 3 at the time, and I slapped her twice. I'm actually writing a one-man about that. I'm in the middle of writing a one-man because I realized I'm not just a stand-up comedian. I'm a performer, and I know how I want to present it. But when I did that, I left. I was out. 2 months later, I was back in New York. It's probably one of the loneliest, hardest times of my life because I was like, I'm not putting my family through that. I'm already.
So when you would go to New York, you mean your kid was always in Connecticut?
I moved straight to. I left. I left my family behind.
But I mean, your kid was never in New York. Your kid was in Connecticut.
My kid was never in New York. She was conceived out there in New York, but she was born out in my hometown. And then we moved to Hartford, and we've been in Hartford ever since. But then I tried to go back in 2015, and the reason was like, oh, I want to go back and be a comedian and try to move my family out there. It's like, fuck no, man. How are you supposed to tell people that? Like, I hit my kid, and I forgot who she was. My daughter will probably never remember that moment, but I always will. And it still haunts me a bit. I've learned to forgive myself, but I had to separate myself from that situation. I saw too much domestic violence growing up as a kid, Charles. I mean, it's like my house was that house that was the argumental house, the volatile house. And the projects where I grew up, every house was almost like that. But then when we moved out, my house became that house, and it was tough seeing it firsthand. Like I saw domestic violence up until I was like 18 years old, 19 years old. That's all I saw. That's all I knew. And just inflammatory relationships between men and women. That's all I saw. So when I did that with my kid, I was like, I got to get out of here. And I remember just being lonely as hell. And then trying to find a psychiatrist and I already had a psychologist. She was still in Connecticut. And I would go back to Connecticut to go see her and then go see my family every now and then. So I was back and forth a lot. But I find a psychiatrist who can help me with meds, because I decided to go back on meds 2015. And that's when I realized that the ADHD and the bipolar disorder. But it wasn't until 2017 when I found out my real diagnosis, which is borderline. I came back, I was coming back and forth to Connecticut. I was trying to leave absence for my job. Both my therapists were like, look, the one who prescribes me med and my psychologist, they're like, look, you're not going on another leave of absence unless you go into group therapy. I'm like, all right, fuck it. So I went into group, and I did it in Manchester, Connecticut. Changed my life. But prior to going into that, I found out what my diagnosis was. So I went to this place called the Institute of Living in Hartford, and this woman was going to get me to this program, and she mentioned, like, say, hey, I don't think you'd be great for this program, but do you have this, and this? There was 9 symptoms for borderline personality disorder. I had all 9.
Okay. What is that? Everybody, I've heard that before. What exactly is borderline personality?
Oh man, borderline personality disorder is a man-made disease, if you will. It's not necessarily due to chemical imbalance. It's primarily based off of traumas that have existed in your life that have torn your mental apart, that have shook you. Think about it like having a concussion. You know how your brain just shakes, right? When it just shakes like that. Think of it like that, like having constant traumas that exist in your life that shake your brain and that create false realities. So what happens is it affects you with relationships, meaning that you have been hurt so many times in your life that your mind brings you to a place that does not exist. And what it does is it creates this level of trauma in terms of these relationships. For instance, in other words, like my girlfriend and I, let's say my girlfriend does something I don't like or don't want to do. I would tell her, like, oh, you don't love me, you don't care about me, because that's the trauma kicking in. That's the borderline kicking in. That's me not believing in a true reality because of all that trauma that existed. So having borderline is essentially having loss of identity, and having having emotional outbursts, having your emotions change at a whim. Like, it's hard to have a job because your emotions are like that. And being borderline is like being a comedian. Because like being a stand-up comic's the lowest of the, so is borderline personality disorder. It's like that.
So you're prone to sort of think that you don't deserve the situations you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so you sort of may be prone to set up conflict that will make it end.
Exactly. And think about it in the most extremes of senses.
It sounds like my relationships, actually.
But honestly, that's what it's like, though.
Yeah.
It's seriously, you think about, like, I wish I can't give you the full definition of it, but that's just sort of what I can muster up. I mean, I can look it up on my iPad now, but essentially that's what it is. It's just like craters in your brain, man, that were affected from shit that happened in your life. But I didn't find out my real diagnosis until I was 33 years old. I'm 38 now. I found out what I really had 5 years ago. And when that happened, it was like an awakening. And I was just like, oh shit, that's why it was like that. And the person I really hurt the most was my girlfriend who's still with me to this day. And I've told people that I live with this, and people have told me, like, how do you have a relationship that long? And don't tell anyone that you have this because they're not going to hire you. They're going to treat you differently. I've had people to my face tell me like, you're never going to get better. Like, borderlines are the worst. I mean, I've heard everything, man. Like, if you ever go like on Google, or if you ever go on YouTube and just, look up borderline personality disorder and see a video, look at the comments. People they hate borderlines. They're like, they're awful people. They're manipulative. They're this. We're just trying to protect ourselves because we've been hurt.
So
it's crazy. I don't mean to damper it down, but
no,
that's
it's
just
fine.
what happened,
Look, it's fine. No, look, courtesy flush, please, courtesy flush.
Courtesy. I love how these courtesy flushes have different vibes and moods. Like you know what I mean? Like different vibes and moods. Right, but that's just me, man. That's who I am. And I talk a lot about my mental health on stage more. I want to talk about it in my show. I want people to understand, man, that you can still live a life despite what you have upstairs in your brain.
Now, let me ask you also about you having a daughter and being a father, and at the same time being a comedian.
Right.
Now, I don't have children that I know about. Hey. If the carpet could get pregnant, I'd be like, I'd have several children. But anyway, because I have terrible aim and I have work.
Oh, you and me. I do it in the bathroom because like when I come, I feel like I do it in the toilet. It makes you feel like I'm coming on a woman's face. It's the closest I ever get to doing that shit. And then that's it. So I feel you.
You're a poet. So I wanted to ask you about having a kid and then being a comedian. I would have to imagine that the instincts you have as a comedian can sometimes help you when you're playing with the kid and everything like that. But also, it could also maybe make you forgive something they do if you think it's funny enough.
Okay, so that's loaded. All right, that's loaded. Oh my God, that's loaded. Okay, I'm gonna try to be timely with this one. Number one, she's a muse. She inspired the show. She inspired Biege on both sides, and she inspired Biege.
Okay.
And I think you can understand, and I think with comedians, like when I first started being a comic, I wanted to be like the clever Dave Chappelle, like a light-skinned Dave Chappelle or Eddie Murphy, right? But then as time went on, I started talking about being Black and Puerto Rican, and I became the Black and Puerto Rican guy. And then I started talking about being a father, and now I'm this dad now. And then I remember reading this quote from Lenny Bruce said, it's like, there came a time where I stopped being a comedian, I became Lenny Bruce. And with her, I stopped being a comedian, I became Rob Santos. So 12 years, I kind of know my voice. I kind of know my point of view. I just got to learn how to like really refine it and piece it together. But to answer what you're saying, like, wow, I put a video up of her doing stand-up in my office. Like I have a studio down the street from where I live, and she moves just like me. She looks like me. She sounds like me. I'm like, yo. And then I had friends of mine tell me like, yo, Rob, she moves like you do. And I'm like, fuck, So it's like, she was on the roof one day, actually a handful of times. She started making videos of herself on the roof. She's like, oh, I'm on the roof and my parents don't even know. Look at me. Yeah. A part of me was like, yo, I fucks with that. Like, yo, I would do the same shit. It's like, yo, if my parents didn't know, I'm going to rub that shit in too. So I was laughing at that. Like, yo, that's fucking hilarious. But I was pissed that she was on the roof.
Right.
So the dad in me was like, yo, yeah, exactly.
You were conflicted. You were like, you shouldn't be on the roof, but that's funny. I understand.
Yeah. Right. So like there was this one time. So one time we were talking. We were at a restaurant, and she had like one of the napkins, and I'm talking to her, and she has the napkin, and as I'm talking to her, she goes like this. And so she covers her face totally with the napkin as I'm talking to her. I'm trying to like tell her she not to do something. So when she covers her face like this, I'm like, okay, first off, that's hilarious. Second of all, don't do that when I'm talking to you.
Right.
Yeah, but that's when you're a dad, man. It's like the kids, what they do, it's so funny. But then you also have to think about like, yo, I would do some shit like that too. And I don't want to tear down her creativity. I don't want to tear down her opportunity for choices. Like I don't want her to scare her into a choice to make because she feels it's gonna make me feel good. Like I don't want that. Right. But that's what it's like, man. It's like they do funny shit all the fucking time, man. And because of that, it's just it's such a great watch to be a part of, man. And their sense of humor is just, her sense of humor is insane. Her thought process is great. So like I thoroughly enjoy being a dad, man. I really do. I love getting older, and I love getting older with her.
Oh, that's a very nice way to put it. I like that. So
I appreciate you.
let me know the info of where we can. Are you still doing the campaign, the GoFundMe for?
So we finished that up. We did an Indiegogo. We made over $10,000, and then some people donated some money. Like we made like $9,000, and I had some people donate some money afterwards. And so we're like legitimately over 10K right now. Right now we're going through a process in Hartford where it's like, okay, this group got $150,000, and like, okay, we want to give it to Black people, and now we're trying to get that money from them. So we're coming up with a proposal for this grant and trying to get more money. But right now it's like we're not taking donations right now. But we're like, if anyone wants to look me up on a Venmo, it's like, Raggedy_Rob, like that's me, at Raggedy_Rob, that they can, make a donation. I'm going to actually on robsantoscomedy.com. There should be a link that's connected to like our proof of concept, our 1 minute trailer. So there's the opportunity there. But right now we're not necessarily taking donations, but they're welcome. So if anybody wants to find me on Instagram and direct message me, it's Raggedy_Rob. Like we're all for that. But right now it's closed up.
Do you have any dates set to shoot more stuff or to put more stuff together?
So right now we're in the process of writing three episodes. We're trying to get like a half a season done, because what we're doing is we really want to do this the right way. So the funny thing is that individual that was working with me, they stopped working with me and then did a show about golf that was fucking terrible. And
that's another great thing. I love that you said that, because when you get these people who are not talented people and rely on raping the talent from other people, when they're finally left alone to do their own thing, they suck. They're like what's in the bottom of this. They're like this.
Oh, listen, exactly. Oh, dude.
Because I had a dude. I want to just tell you real quickly.
Go ahead.
I had a dude separate from this particular situation, from these live shows I used to do. And I had a dude who was a good cast member. He was a good actor, but he was a mental patient. And he would try to assume the identity of people he was around. Not literally. He wouldn't steal your identity, but like, because I was a writer now, he was a writer. And if he improvised something during rehearsal and I said, yeah, use that, he would want writing credit. I go, dude, you're an actor. Like, I do that too. That's not like, just put it in there, relax. I said, plus it's a live show, there's no credits or anything, and he would do things like that. And then after he sort of parted ways with me acrimoniously, he tried to tell people that he wrote the stuff that he was in with me when he didn't. And my proof was, if he's a good writer, why isn't he still writing good stuff or anything?
Yeah, dude. And it's like that, man. And that individual, see, that's the scary part, because there's a lot of people out there that are like that, like who have false identities.
Most people.
Yeah, and a lot of them are in this industry, and that's fucked up, man. I'm sorry, like
that's what I mean.
And that's what happened with this person. They made it
in this particular business. Most of the people who are so ardently coming up to you and go, look, I have 5 cameras and some lavalier mics, so I have an LLC company. Let me introduce your show. They're just rapists. They want to take your stuff. And they want to, because they can't create a goddamn thing on their own. And
just like you said, right? And when they fucking do, and the pressure's on them, you find out who people really are when the pressure's on them. And this person made $20K off my likeness. I lost 16 grand to write an episode, to write 8 episodes for my show from a local TV network. This person made $20K off my likeness. I basically lost out on $36,000 that should have been mine. That people use, and it's crazy. And this person raised this money and did a shit job and has nothing to show for it now, but still wants to go ahead and try to be in this business.
Well, that's their problem. The thing is,
exactly.
You still have you, so you still can do it. They can't.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And exactly, and that's what I'm honing in on. So we're trying to do 3 episodes. I got a treatment of 6 episodes down. But now we're trying to do 3 episodes because we want to do them right. And probably leave people on a cliffhanger, so maybe we can get more money to get raised up so we can do the whole season, and then maybe we can get it picked up. Like, I look at someone like Issa Rae. I think like 2010, 2011, she did that the misadventures of the awkward black girl, and then it got picked up, become Insecure. So I'm thinking like maybe we can get an opportunity to get people to take a look at this and hopefully somehow, some way, pitch it to somebody, and maybe somebody will take it. Maybe we sell it. Maybe we come up with a production deal or something like that where I can star in it still, and I can bring my team on to be a part of production, be a part of the crew. That's one of my main goals. The first time around with the local TV network, I had it all mapped out. I was going to write it, going to start it, and I was going to have my team come through and be a part of the project. And I was going to have all my crew members come through. So I had everything mapped out. And when it fell apart, I almost felt like I let everyone down. But now here I am, and I'm in a better position. I realized that, wow, my likeness can make money, and what I do can make money. So that's validation on itself. And when that happens, it's like, yo, like, this is fucking weird, man. It's so hard to understand at first, but eventually it kicks in, but you're only as good as the people you're around, man. You know that.
But now you're now with this new incarnation and where you're at now, the real good journey begins now, and I look forward to seeing that. If you have any parts for me, the sexiest man alive, if you have a character that is like the sexiest man alive and he sings jazz and stuff, I will come down to Hartford. I am SAG, but I will accept deferred pay. So.
You see that's what I mean. You're more legit than I, so there's more I got to learn from you. You know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. It's like I see what you're doing, and it's like you're essentially doing what I want to do, and in terms of the business end of it as well. Like, I see what you're doing. You're piecing stuff together, and I was like, yeah, I think we're on par in terms of like content creators, because we know what we want. We like what we do. We enjoy what we do.
But what I always wanted to do was have like one show visit the other, like when the Jetsons met the Flintstones. I always wanted to do one of those things, and maybe we could do something like that in the upcoming, in the future. Maybe we could do something like that. That'd be great.
Honestly, I'm open to anything. That sounds like a great idea. I mean, especially trying to we want to get a second season in. We want to get this first one done. I want to explore different opportunities, because what that does, it connects your world with my world, and more than just the show world, but like in a business sense, you know, and going, like, I would love to take my character down to New York.
Right.
That'll be that in my mind, you mentioning that, I would love to bring my character to New York. I think that would be fucking dope. That'd be really cool. Like, that'd be a great fucking idea. So I love that idea. Hopefully it can come to fruition. I really hope.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. So once again, give me all your addresses and contacts so people can check out your stuff.
Well, the main one is robsantoscomedy.com. Check me out there. On Instagram, it's raggedy_Rob. Instagram, raggedy_Rob. Those are the major ones that I use most of the time. I find myself on Facebook. You can look me up, Rob Santos Comedy, on Facebook as well. You'll find me there. But robsantoscomedy.com. Instagram, raggedy_Rob. That's where you'll find me.
So there you go. That's Rob Santos. I'm looking forward to Biege coming out. We're going to see his stuff. You can check out his comedy, and he will be doing comedy around the country. You're going to see him, and if you check him out, his stand-up is funny. He's a funny guy. He even has a shirt with his head on it. He has a shirt with his head on it. You understand?
Yo, listen. and to answer the question, I'm so sorry. I know you're like we're starting shooting August. I forgot to say that. We're shooting Biege in August, so forgive me. I didn't mean to interrupt, but we're shooting Biege in August, so that's what we're gunning for. So fingers crossed.
Great, absolutely. So we look forward to that. So check out, first of all, everybody watching, check out my web series, Tune Into Goonan, on this YouTube channel, by the way, and check out Rob Santos in all his projects, including Biege, that's going to be coming out soon. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Great Goonan Podcast. I am the Great Goonan, and you've been talking to Rob Santos. Courtesy Flush! Courtesy Flush!
I love all, yeah. I don't want to, listen, toilet paper is not cheap, so I'm being very mindful. This shit ain't cheap, okay?
You're sick in the head.